Hello, everyone. I'm Bradley with West Virginia American Water, and we are back for another segment of our Partners in Source Water Protection, a segment that we are doing as part of Source Water Protection Week here in West Virginia. And we are so honored to have with us today. I have Erica, our Source Water Protection Program Manager in West Virginia, and we're honored to have with us today from the Cabell County EMS. We have Jerry, and Jerry is the emergency planner for Cabell County. And again, Source Water Protection and our program here in West Virginia would not be what it is without our partners and external relationships with folks like Jerry and the Cabell EMS and EMSs across the service areas that we serve here throughout West Virginia. So without further ado, and again, I'll just plug quickly, we have a great relationship, not only from a source water protection standpoint, but also from a community partnership and giving standpoint. Cabell County EMS was just recognized through our firefighting support program, received a grant to purchase some much needed equipment to further enhance fire protection there in Cabell County. So really glad you guys were a recipient of that award this year. And so without further ado, I will kick it over to you and Erica to kind of talk about how we at West Virginia American Water work with the Cabell County EMS.
Thanks, Bradley. So happy Source Water Protection Week, everyone. And also September is National Preparedness Month. So happy National Preparedness Month. The week of September 14th through the 18th is titled Prepare for Disasters. So it is most certainly a great month to be thinking about and making sure that you have necessary tools and response plans in place to prepare for disasters. So it's a key component to emergency response. So just to give a little bit of background on West Virginia American Water, we have proudly been serving West Virginia since 1886. We serve about 565,000 people in 19 counties, which is about 1/3 of the population here in the state. We do operate 2 wastewater facilities as well as 8 water treatment facilities. Those water treatment facilities have various sources across the state. And sources of supply is what I mean. And in the Bluefield area, we have the Key, Horton, and Ada Reservoir. In Bluestone, we serve the community out of the New River or Bluestone Lake. And then in the Fayetteville area, we also serve out of the New River as the source. And then in Gassaway, Kanawha Valley, as well as Webster Springs, those are all served from the Elk River. And then Huntington is served from the Ohio River. And last but not least, we have our Weston area, which is served out of the West Fork River. So I want to talk a little bit about our sources and just to talk a little bit about source water protection and what that program means from a drinking water utility standpoint in here, here at West Virginia American Water. So our priority is to provide clean and reliable drinking water to the communities that we serve. And that process starts at the source. So protecting our sources of supply supports the overall treatment process and benefits the community just as a whole. And just a couple ways that we do manage that program and protect those drinking water supplies. We identify potential sources of pollution that are located upstream from our surface water intakes. We also monitor for changes in raw water quality, and we establish contingency plans to prepare and respond in case of any kind of potential contamination events. We also engage the community through outreach and educational programs. And then also we partner with the community and agencies and non-government organizations on our watershed protection efforts. So that's sort of the source water protection in a nutshell. And then in emergency management, relationships are a big part of our contingency and communication planning, and it's vital to our emergency response efforts. So sometimes of the examples of emergency preparedness and response measures, there's a variety of them. A big part of it is partnerships, and it comes down to those relationships and knowing the right people to call at the right time. And having those relationships established. Some of the other preparedness measures in terms of source water protection and just from a drinking water utility perspective as a whole, we do risk assessments to identify and prioritize prioritize hazards, which could affect the water system. And that can be anything from wildfires or flooding, more often here, or contamination events to source water. We established emergency response procedures that provide specific instructions for our water system personnel and emergency responders as well in the event of an emergency situation. We have developed detection systems and notification protocols to provide early warning. We've coordinated with local emergency responders and local organizations that are responsible for community preparedness, such as the local emergency planning committees. And a big part of what we're going to talk about today, and Jerry's involvement with the Cabell Wayne Homeland Security Group and the Cabell Wayne local emergency planning committees. And then we also do training exercises or training events that we call exercises, where we exercise, or for in other words, practice our emergency protocols, plans, and coordination with our external partners. So emergency management relationships are like I said, it's vital. We consider safety a core value here at West Virginia American Water, and our emergency preparedness and response efforts go well beyond any kind of regulatory requirements to ensure the safety of our customers and employees in our water. So emergency preparedness and response planning is, like I've said before, just indispensable part of our drinking water protection program. It's important that we develop and practice the emergency response procedures. It enables our water system personnel to take action and reduce consequences of an incident and restore service to customers if we would need to. And incidents for us can range from small main breaks, localized flooding, to large-scale national disasters, or excuse me, natural disasters, or contamination of our source or even our finished drinking water. So emergency planning efforts are coordinated at a local and a state level, and I will, a big part of our emergency planning and relationships across the state, as Bradley mentioned, are with the local emergency planning committees. And Jerry, a big part of it for our Huntington water system is our relationships with the Cabell Wayne Homeland Security Group. And that's a vital relationship for us here at West Virginia American Water. And I will turn it over to you to go ahead and explain to us and talk a little bit more about your group.
Thank you, Erica, and thanks for having me. I really like the opportunity to tell about the great things that we have in Cabell and Wayne County. And we do, to give you a little bit of background on our Homeland Security Group, this was formed shortly after 9/11. And we realized as emergency responders and emergency managers in Cabell and Wayne County, we didn't really know all the players. We knew what our agency could do. I knew what the fire department could do. The other folks knew what the police department could do. We knew nothing about what the water company could do, or many of these other organizations. And since that time, it started out with 4 or 5 people that got together over lunch and said, we need to start reaching out to folks in our community and find out what resources we have available, because we really don't know. So that's where it started. We started making phone calls and said, hey, West Virginia American Water, we think you need your critical infrastructure here in our area. We need to get on board with you, find out who the players are, what capabilities you have, what we can bring to the table to you. We reached out to the Board of Education. We reached out to the health departments and the hospitals, and this thing just continued to grow. And as people would go back and tell their story about what was going on here at the Tri-State Fire Academy and these agency building relationships that we were doing, and then people started calling and saying, hey, I think I might bring something to the table. So now, February and March of this year, before COVID hit, we meet once a month, the first Tuesday of every month at 11:30. We have a $5 working lunch. We hold it to 1 hour. The only rule we have is that you leave your ego in the parking lot, because we don't really care what your title is. We want to know what you can bring to the table when we need you. And we want that cell phone number, that 24-hour cell phone number, so that I can call you at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, Erica, I've got something running in the river and I think you may be interested in this. And I need to know who to call really quick. And it's the same with all these other agencies. And I went to look at a daycare center. They wanted me to come through and do a courtesy walk through and tell them some safety measures they needed to take. And I'm looking around and I see cribs and formula and handicap accessible buses and all this childcare stuff. And I'm thinking, you know what, this would be great if we had to shelter kids and stuff. They can bring their cribs, their formula, diapers, and they can help us operate these shelters. So those are the kind of relationships. When you look at some of these agencies, you think, what could they possibly bring to the table during a disaster? But it's that whole community approach. And that's what we've really been successful with. I think our success here is holding it to 1 hour. It's very informal. We're not a 501c3. We don't have a board of directors. We don't have any bylaws. Like I say, we got one rule: leave your ego in the parking lot, and let's all just get along and serve the good of the community. So that's kind of how we got started, where we are now. It's paid dividends, trust me. In my job, I'm kind of like, I tell people all the time, I have no skills, but I know a lot of people who do have skills. So I'm kind of like a conduit that people can contact, and I probably know where to get something for you. I kind of consider myself the Radar O'Reilly of Cabell County. I can do some trading and wheeling and dealing. I'm also on our Cabell Wayne LEPC group, our local emergency planning committee, which we do mostly hazardous materials, but we also take a whole community approach to that too. And we have a lot of partners, especially on the river where your source water is. We've got Coast Guard. We have industry that's along the river that we have very good relationships with. Marathon Petroleum is a huge partner of ours, and down in Catlettsburg, Kentucky, along the Big Sandy through there. But West Virginia American Water, I just want to brag on you guys a little bit because we've been involved in a lot of stuff over the years. You know, I remember the emergency manager, Gordon Mary, our county emergency manager. He called me one evening and he said, "Have you seen this thing going on in Kanawha County with the Elk River?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm looking at it on TV now." And he said, "Thank goodness Cabell County is not one of the counties affected." And about that time, the crawler at the bottom of the screen adds Cabell County to it. So we're in the middle of that. And I have to say, West Virginia American Water stepped up to the plate. We were able to get bottled water into some the eastern part of Cabell County and Culloden and in those areas. We got the fire station as a point of distribution. We work very closely with you guys. There's just been a numerous incidents. The algae bloom that was on the Ohio River that was going to affect things, very dangerous situation. You guys came in and put a temporary line up the Guyandotte River, constructed it ahead of time, and was ready to go with it. A few years ago, we had a water line on the Guyandotte River that ran, I believe, to the CSX facility in Huntington. It ran that way, so that was an alternate source. But whatever happened, that source was no longer available. So we met and discussed putting a place up the Guyandotte River, and where that's still a consideration, I think, that we want to look at. But through these partnerships, we've really had a lot of luck, and not just for source water protection, but your folks are very involved in our local emergency planning committee as far as exercises go. You spoke earlier about exercises and drills and how we come together, because we're all going to be in this together. When something happens, we're all in it together. We need to know each other way beforehand. The time to meet Erica Palkin is not at 2:00 in the morning on the riverbank somewhere. I want to have that relationship way ahead of time. So that's kind of a little background about what we do and some of the people. But our meetings went from having 4 or 5 people a month to, in February and March, we had 90 people from almost 50 different agencies at both those meetings. It continues to grow. And like I say, we've got transportation, we've got the military, all the healthcare facilities, the jail, transportation. There's just tons of agencies that are involved in this. And these people are all engaged. It's proven itself great again through COVID, this 19 pandemic. We've shared resources. We've been able to get PPE for different agencies and those kind of things. And so I think this is a great timing by it being Emergency Preparedness Month. I want to put a little plug in. Everybody needs a plan, a home plan, because the cavalry's not coming over the hill to help you. You're on your own for at least 72 hours. So you got to be prepared to take care of yourself. Go to volunteerwestvirginia.org and they'll show you how to make a preparedness plan. There's plans for pets, for senior citizens, for persons with disabilities, for regular households, for children. There's all sorts of different plans out there. It's not just a one size fits all, but they get very specific as to the folks you're looking at to plan for. There's hospitals, there's businesses, there's all of these. There's continuity of operation sites. If you can't operate from your normal, which is really hit home with this because a lot of people working from home or remote facilities, that's all involved in that. So please make a plan. So I've rattled on enough, so I'll kick it back to you.
No, that's great to hear. And obviously, you know, you can hear, and we would all agree that, you know, positive relationships with our partners and that open communication at all times and knowing who to call on, you know, that's key. And I feel like we have that, and that's what makes our source water protection program so strong at West Virginia American Water, and our partnerships with our county EMSs, like you and your folks in Cabell County, Jerry. And I remember just a little story, and Eric, I'll kick it back to you, but I remember, you know, last year with the tugboat incident on the Ohio, and just the swift action and the communication, and, you know, Jerry knew to call Erica quickly, and just how quickly that was mitigated, and how that could have been, you know, a real issue along the Ohio River, and was thanks to the partnerships that we've built, and thanks to, you know, folks like you have there at the Homeland Security Agency, we were able to mitigate that quickly. And I think that's just an awesome, you know, thing for both of us, a great partnership. So.
Yeah, I would love to give some more details about that story, but real quick, I just have to say that as I listened to Jerry explaining and talking about the Cabell Wayne LEPC and Homeland Security Group, that I'm just so honored to be a part of that group. I mean, I can't say it enough. It's like it already feels like family. It's really an honor to be a part of that group, and I just had to speak to that really quick, but it touches my heart. But yes, so in the tugboat, there was a vessel on the Ohio River. Let me back up a little bit. So our emergency management planning, myself, the source water manager, and then also our local managers and supervisors, we take turns regularly attending different local emergency planning committee meetings all across the state. So it's a big commitment, but we do recognize and realize that there's value in taking the time to do that. So this particular incident, there was a severe thunderstorm. There was a vessel, and originally we were told that it was holding up to 8,000 gallons of diesel fuel, and it had wrecked and sunk upstream from our intake in the Ohio River in Huntington, and there was a possibility of an instantaneous release into the water supply. So you can imagine that that kind of notification leaves a little bit of anxiety and uncertainty. So, and the specific details were that, you know, it was fairly vague in terms of the notification that we had a vessel that was submerged upstream. There was a light sheen that was reported, but they were unsure at the time what the rate of discharge was due to the river conditions. The river was really high and really fast in terms of velocity. And so, like I said, initially it was reported it was 8,000 gallons that could be mixing into the water column. So it ended up being 5,000 gallons, but still, you hear either one of those numbers and it's a lot. And so it was really a light bulb moment for us in that realization, in that time of uncertainty, that we had developed the relationships that we needed in order to respond to this event. So we automatically knew that we had members from the local emergency planning committee, the Homeland Security Group, that we could call for help in responding to this situation and just gaining more information to help our operations team to prepare for this event, or possible event, I should say. And so the team was able to use the connections through the Homeland Security and through Jerry, the Homeland Security Group, and also through the LEPC, and we were able to connect to a member of the U.S. Coast Guard. And from that connection was made during the networking that we do every first Tuesday or second Tuesday of the month, and at the LEPC meetings, Homeland Security. I use that word interchangeably, but West Virginia American Water was actually invited to accompany the U.S. Coast Guard on the vessel assessment and to monitor for any kind of possible spills or into the waterway, and also to review the salvage plans. So we were able to obtain the facts that we needed to about the situation to better prepare our team to make any kind of necessary operational preparedness and response actions to protect our community's drinking water should there be an issue. So fortunately, the spill volume was minimal, and there was no impact to the drinking water supply or to the source at our intake. But it certainly is a testimony to how these partnerships protect our drinking water supplies, and just one example of protecting drinking water. But as Jerry mentioned, they provide a lot of assistance just across the community as a whole in terms of preparedness. And one statistic I like to throw out there is that the U.S. EPA had mentioned that dealing with contamination of groundwater supply is 30 to 40 times more costly than to prevent it in the first place. So just increasing that overall emergency preparedness and coordination with our external partners is just vital to the overall picture for us of providing clean and reliable water to the communities that we serve. So and that starts at the source for us, and our partnerships with organizations such as the Cabell Wayne Homeland Security Group are vital to that. So yeah, I'll send it back over to you, Bradley. I also do want to mention on our website, we have a source water protection feedback form. So if you do visit our website, that is www.westvirginiaamwater.com. And if you go to the water quality tab, source water protection, you will find the source water protection feedback form. So if you hear anything today that sparked additional interest, or if you have any questions or want to know more about source water protection or anything that we've talked about today or in any of our series of Source Water Protection Week external partner events, please jump on our website, and we would love to hear from you. So,
can I add a couple of things before we send it back? Bradley, my mind is sitting here just spinning because of the things that we've had going. But also, not long ago, I can't remember exactly how long ago it's been, but I called Steve Cornwell. Cabell Huntington Hospital had notified us that their chiller, the water supply to their chillers, was down. And it was in the middle of the summer. It was hot. They were going to lose some capabilities because they were going to have to evacuate some people out of there because it was just too hot for them. So I called Steve, and at the time, I think we were going through a drought, and West Virginia American Water had a tanker truck at Salt Rock, I believe it was, for the residents out there. And I called him and I said, is there any way I could get that tanker? And I don't remember the gallons, 7,000 to 10,000, something like that, gallons of water. And I had also talked to Department of Highways because they have a water tanker too. And that was all through partnership of the Cabell Wayne Homeland Security Group. And so they were kind enough. And Steve asked me, he said, can you pick it up? And I said, no, I don't have a tractor just sitting around, And he said, well, never mind. I'll use our contractor who I happen to know also. And so we got those trailers in there. Guy from Homeland Security in Charleston, he heard about it because I reported it to Charleston that we had done that. And he said, I got to see this. And so he came down. They were very impressed. They couldn't believe the relationships that we have. So it's not just us helping you guys. It's you guys. Every time I've called, and I could go on and on and on. We wouldn't have fire hydrants on our property. We're actually neighbors. We're at Tri-State Fire Academy here beside West Virginia American Water. We didn't have any fire hydrants. We were the only training facility in the country didn't have fire hydrants. And through a partnership with West Virginia American Water and Greg Webb and some other folks, Greg's retired now, but they engineered a way for us to get those at as cheap as we could get them. So, it works both ways. I mean, I'm not, this is not all the out of the goodness of my heart. I get things in return for it. So, but I do appreciate the kind words, but it is a partnership.
Those are great examples. Thanks, Jerry. And that's so true. There's just so many different things that we could highlight here. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to share it. A lot of it sort of happens, I guess, quote unquote, behind the scenes. So I'm grateful to be able to share it with other people and just sort of highlight some of the things that we're doing in the community with this partnership. So thanks a lot for joining us, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jerry. And that, that means a lot to hear that, I know folks all across West Virginia American Water are invested in their communities and will do anything they can to help. And that story with Steve is just one of, again, probably thousands of examples of just positive relationships and partnerships with folks like you. And we really appreciate you. And thank you for joining us today. Again, we're wrapping out the end of our Source Water Protection Week here in West Virginia. And just really thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for another day of activities tomorrow. So thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Bradley. And I'd like to add, when Erica was talking to your website, if you have any questions, if you should have any questions to me, go ahead and ask them there, and Erica can pass those on to me, and I'll be more than happy to ask any questions or answer any questions folks might have for our organization.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that, Jerry. And we will hopefully talk to you and see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.